And what I would do is I would do a brief introduction of Sonja, and then we go straight to asking her questions. But this is going to be more a conversational than an interview. And I ask her to really share her knowledge with us. I explained to her a little bit of everybody's profile, so she knows. And then let's get started. Are you ready?
Fantastic.
Okay, so there we go. Sonja Piontek is an acclaimed global keynote speaker and best-selling author on UltraCreativity that has spoken in 23 countries and inspired thousands of people from stage. She is known for the impressive results she delivers. Sonja looks back on an international executive career with one of the world's most prestigious brands. End of 2017, the director of marketing for BMW Asia left the corporate world to focus on her speaking career and to set up her own company, which is quite brave. Her award-winning agency, Sonnenkind, specializes in the creation of unforgettable travel experiences for high net worth clients and renowned international brands like Leica Camera, Rover, and Lamborghini. Leading international publications regularly feature Sonja and her outstanding work. The feedback Sonja gets from her global clients is that she doesn't just deliver a great keynote speech. Sonja manages to trigger something in people that stimulates real change and an impressive increase in performance in the months after the event. Sonja, welcome to this evening with all of us here.
Thank you very much. And gosh, you make me blush.
Well, you deserve, you have done all of this. And Sonja, as I told you, we are a mix of people here from different nationalities, live in different parts of the globe. Most of us have the profile of being trainers for many years and giving presentations and giving some keynote speeches, but we never really branded ourselves as keynote speakers. Mm-hmm. And as your background is marketing, and as you branded yourself quite well because 2017 to now is not that long, 3 years, and you are all over the world already and with a huge reputation as a keynote speaker. Can you share with us the step-by-step how we can get there?
Yeah, so maybe I share a little bit about my own journey. So when I left BMW end of 2017, it's not only that I didn't really have a plan to become a keynote speaker, much of the contrary, I actually never thought that I could be a keynote speaker. Because in my final days or in my final years with BMW, I had often been asked to come on stage as the marketing director for BMW Asia. So I just thought, you know what, they want that fancy title. They want to say, hey, the marketing director for BMW Asia was on stage. So for me, it was very clear the moment that I left the corporate world that I wouldn't get requests anymore. And the funny thing is that once I'd left, I got phone calls and people were like, well, we've got this event. Would you like to be a speaker? And I said, no, well, sorry, you don't understand. I'm not with BMW any longer. And they were like, well, it doesn't matter. I'm like, well, it does, because you can't say you've got director of marketing. They're like, we don't care. We want you. So in the beginning, I was totally surprised because I was like, oh, okay. So they really want me on stage. So I just accepted. I was really excited about it and kept doing some speeches. And obviously in the beginning, it was a lot about marketing related topics. It was creating marketing magic and all those beautiful, basically brand building stories that I could share from my time with BMW. And the feedback I received very soon showed me that it wasn't so much about the marketing content, but more about the inspiration that people got, the way I was thinking, the way I was challenging them, the way I was sort of sharing how we develop things differently. And so I went on stage a few times, 3, 4, 5 times. And then I realized, you know what, it's not all about this marketing stuff. It's more about the inspiration. Then I thought, you know what, maybe this is something I would really love to do more. I really enjoy inspiring people. And obviously this is working quite well. So I said, you know what, let me just give this a go. But with my marketing background, I didn't just say, okay, well, what am I going to do now? But it was really okay, if I want to be a speaker, I want to do this right. And I want to be a top speaker, and I want to do this professionally and properly. So I set up my first website, and it was actually the very first website I ever set up. And maybe it wasn't perfect, but I really paid a lot of attention in making my brand stand out and making it professional. Because even though it was still the early days of my speaking career, I knew very well that from a branding perspective, I would have to do it right. Because if I go on stage, I deliver. And for me, it's a big promise that I stand for, my name stands for. So I also thought, well, my whole brand needs to be set up professionally. So that's how I went into speaking, where I really thought, okay, if I do this, I want to do this right. And this comes with a whole lot of work of actually properly building your brand, and not just saying, guys, I'm here, I'm now a speaker, because it takes a lot to be seen as a speaker, and even more so to be recognized and booked as a global keynote speaker.
And let me ask you something here, because of course you have this strong marketing background. It's not only a marketing background, it's working for prestigious brands like that in a high position. So you know what marketing branding is about.
Yes.
And there's one writer that I really love is Seth Godin. He has a book, he says, the title of the book is all the marketeers are liars, and then there's is marked out, but then below it says storytellers. So my question to you is, like, we know that we have to have this story, our story, the story that identifies Tulia, that identifies Ian, Roberto. We have a different stories. Did you, at the moment that you realized that they were not looking for the marketing director anymore, did Sonja have a story that, like, it was something you just tried and you tried again and you were bringing different stories, or you had this sense of what you wanted to talk about?
So basically, I think for me, one very important thing is it's all about authenticity. I totally disagree that marketeers need to be liars to be successful. I think, especially in that field, being authentic, being true to yourself, and just focusing on your strengths. I mean, a lot of people, when I sort of started finding my positioning in the speaking world, they were like, oh, you've got to do all this artificial intelligence stuff and all digital. I'm like, that's not me. I don't want to do that, because that's not me. I can talk about branding and I can talk about brand building in the digital age, but I'm never just going to do all AI and all sort of, I'm like, that's just not me. And so when it came to finding my core topic, finding my positioning, it was all about, okay, what do I want to stand for? What am I really good at? Where can I add some real value? Obviously, that net value needs to have a market. I mean, if I'm truly passionate about something that no one cares about, difficult story. But if you just make up your mind and get really clear about what am I good at, what is it that I'm passionate about, then I think you will be much more successful as a sustainable premium brand than rather than going, okay, what sells at the moment? Because
Mm-hmm.
that's not the way good brands are set up.
And I watched a few interviews, one interview of you with another person before to get to know more about you. And there's one thing that you mentioned there, that you unleash potentials.
Yeah.
And interesting enough, I used to use this term many years ago, but I would like you to share with us, what do you mean with that?
So for me, it's always been very important to just sort of go beyond what the status quo is, to really see, okay, what can we get out of that person? What can we get out of that project? What can we do better? How can we just basically step outside of that comfort zone, out of the norm, and just excel, be it with people, be it with projects. So often people say, oh, I'm not good at this, I've never done this, or this project, no, we can't do this. And I'm always one who says, you know what, don't say cannot. Just let's just think, how can we do it? Can we do it differently? Can we find new solutions, new ways of solving certain challenges? How can we make you better? How can we make you excel? So that whole unleashing potential, be it in teams, in projects, or in people, has always been something I'm just very passionate about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's yeah. And when you say that, it comes to my mind also, like the mindset that we have to have. Of course, when you're starting speaking, you want to go there to inspire, no? And I always say to my my students and my clients, say, like, inspiration is great, but don't necessarily take people into action. So we have to do something that they feel that they need to do something about it, about the situation. So you really need to know their pain, right? And in the interview before that I watched it from you, you mentioned something that I found very interesting, because the guy asked you if you were, which kind of clients you had. Mm-hmm. And you said, well, at the beginning I thought they were private, but then in the end, I realized that I was really dealing with the companies. Can you share that? Do you remember what I talk about?
Yeah, so it is true. So a lot of my clients are big corporations, and that's again coming back to your strength. I've got a very strong corporate background. I speak the corporate language. So for me, it comes natural to actually deliver well in that corporate world. And it makes it so much easier for them as well to have a speaker that speaks their language, that is relaxed and totally fine with just having an alignment meeting with a board member of a big international banking group, and not just like, oh my God, what am I going to ask? But that totally understands what to ask, how to get to the point where you figure out what is it that they really need, what is their objective. It's not just have a great event and make everyone clap and give you a standing ovation. That's not the objective at all. It's really, what is it that the board member has in mind? What is it that the company really needs at that stage? How can I best help these companies? And for me, having that corporate background, it just works extremely well. And it doesn't mean that this is the way for everyone. I mean, everyone needs to find their own niche. Everyone needs to find their best positioning. And that's also something, I think, that where people need to allow some time. For example, I started off, when I did my first speeches, I was like, oh, now I need to have a proper positioning. So I called myself the brand aficionado. Great for those who speak Spanish or Portuguese. Maybe okay for some others. In the Asian area where I live in Singapore, it wasn't that easily understood. And I soon realized, whilst I thought it was bloody brilliant to call myself the brand aficionado, I soon realized that, first of all, a lot of people didn't understand it. And then I realized also, I don't actually want to be the brand aficionado. I want to be the person that inspires others and unleashes potential and gives them the right tools to sort of think outside the box and have the determination to do things. So then I thought, okay, maybe that positioning needs some rework, which is totally fine, especially at the beginning of a speaking career. So then I came up with another super brilliant idea of calling it all Soar Because You Can, only to hear from a lot of my German clients, well, why do you use sour? I'm like, what do you mean sour? They're like, sour because you can. And I'm like, oh God, guys, it's not sour. It's soar, as in fly, as in raise, and then again, it was one of those things where I thought I was being super brilliant, and I realized I was being a bit too intellectual, and it just wouldn't work. So that's how I then, in the end, came up with the idea of UltraCreativity, which is extremely easy to understand. It is strong in terms of marketing. It is much stronger. It is much more powerful. And it's an easy way of combining all my my ideas of how to help people unleash their potential, how to have the right mindset to actually excel even during difficult times, how to challenge the status quo. And it all very beautifully, sorry.
It happens.
Sorry. I mean, that's just, it's a beautiful way of doing it. And that's something where it took some time, and I was almost a bit embarrassed. I'm like, okay, there's the person who really knows about branding and positioning, and I've changed mine two times already. But I think it's something where you just have to say, okay, it is what it is, and now I found it. And it's a matter of just going, okay, also if you come up with a brilliant idea, seemingly brilliant, and you realize it's not working, then you just need to go, okay, I need to change it. And you need to have the guts to say, okay, if sour doesn't work, then maybe sour isn't the right way. So
that's awesome that you say that. I'm sure you made a few of us to feel better that we can make those mistakes with our branding. And because sometimes we try things as well and we think like, well, where do I go with this? And going back to the branding, because I know this is your strong background as well. You mentioned this here, the power of professionally setting up a premium brand. How do we do that?
So basically, in order to set up a premium brand, a professional brand, there's a few tips and tricks you just need to do. So the first thing you need to do, you need to really sit down and think about your brand identity. You need to think about who you want to be, how you want to be perceived, how you want to be seen, how you want to be referred to. So is it that you want to be, do you just want to be, for example, the super engaging, fun speaker? Do you want to be a more, like a friend of mine, she is a very serious scientific speaker. I couldn't do it like this. I would never want to do it like this. For her, it's great. So you just need to think, okay, what do I really want to stand for? What is my core value? What are the attributes that work really well? And the way I normally do these, also when I work with some clients on finding their brand identity and building their brand, is really to sit down and say, okay, explain how you see yourself, explain how others see yourself, use words to describe yourself. And we just basically scribble down a whole lot of words. And sometimes it's a matter of 30, 40 words where you just go like, okay, these are all descriptors. And then you get to a point where all of a sudden you say, oh my God, that's it. And it's an exercise that can take a little bit of time. And sometimes it takes a few days to then think, oh, I've got a new idea. And then you go, we're almost there, but it's not quite there yet. Mm-hmm. And it's the same when you then, for example, you decide on your brand name. For example, I've got a good friend who's an amazing speaker. His name is Rusty Labuskachny.
Okay.
Beautiful man. Terrible name in terms of branding. Yeah. Absolutely impossible to remember to spell. So for Rusty, it was very clear he needed something else. He can't use his name. So he came up with beating chains. The guy was imprisoned falsely for over, I think, 12 years in Zimbabwe. So he is now known for beating chains. Very easy to remember. Direct link to his story, beautiful link. If he had tried to position himself as a Rusty Labuskachny, it wouldn't work. So these are all the discussions we normally have is, okay, if you want to stand for something, first of all, do you want to use your name? Do you want to use a brand name? Do you want to sort of have a certain very powerful message? A friend of mine, Ron Kaufman, it's all about service. So in his brand, any brand material, it always has some link to service. Mm-hmm. So you have to have very clear messages and make it easy for people to remember you. Mm. Another friend of mine, we sort of did the same exercise and we came up with, she is the business growth lady. Okay. Now, for example, if I had used for myself, I'm the UltraCreativity lady. That's not me. I'm much too adventurous. I use photos of me on a motorbike. I sometimes go on stage in motorbike gear. I could never use a brand name like the ultra creativity lady. It's just not me. So you really have to find out what's your identity. Who do you want to stand for? What do you want to be referred to? How do you want people to see you? And then once you've clarified that, you need to work on your so-called CI, corporate identity. The look of your website, of all your materials, the colors you use. And I was talking to an Indian client the other day, a lovely lady that had a rather professional website with all her speaking topics, a book sheet written, like very nicely set up. And then she's like, Sonja, do you like my colors? And I said, no. And then her jaw dropped and she's like, oh my God, because I was consulting her on her brand. And she's like, oh my God, do I need to change? I'm like, no, because it's not about me liking it. It's about, does it fit your brand and does it look professional? And I said, I don't like your colors, but what I see is that you are highly professional, that you really know what you're talking about, that you have built a proper professional high-level brand. And I would engage you despite the fact that I don't like your colors. And that's the thing. It's not about necessarily everyone liking it. It's about, is it really you? Is that what makes you different? And is it consistent? Do you use it consistently? Like if people see it on your website, do they see the same look and touch and feel on your LinkedIn profile? Do they see the same on your Facebook profile? When you then go and speak, do they see that same sort of touch and feel in your presentation? If, for example, one thing that drives me nuts, and it's something I've always irritated me during my time at BMW. There were a lot of conferences and there were a lot of global, super high level international speakers, like the sorts that sort of charge $25,000. The amount of those speakers who had, sorry to say, really lousy slides. And that's for me why I say, guys, seriously, if you charge that amount of money, if you stand in front of 500, 800 people, the least I expect is that you have nice, neat slides. Yeah. And that's something for me where you see the difference between someone who just sells themselves well or someone who really has a professional, properly set up brand. And in the long run, it pays off.
And one thing here, I want to pass the ball to the guys because I'm sure you want to ask questions, but I want to finalize here with you is, for me, I heard this somewhere, I don't remember where, but it was something saying like this, the speaking business is a business.
Yeah.
So if you really want to call yourself a speaker, professional speaker, you have to see it as a business and therefore you have to prepare it as a business.
Yeah.
So before I pass the ball to the guys here to ask their questions to you, I just want to ask you, the last thing is, it's okay, we go trying here, trying there until we define our brand, our voice, our message, right? But what would be one thing at least that you'd say, don't do it? There is one thing that we should really have in mind. We should never do that.
I would say always be authentic and don't sell something that you can't deliver. For me, that's the most important thing. I've seen coaches and trainers who pretended to be global keynote speakers. Yes, it's a very sexy term. And it sounds pretty good to say, hey, I'm a global keynote speaker. But unless you really are a professional keynote speaker and you have delivered, don't call yourself a global keynote speaker because it is embarrassing and it pulls down the whole trade. And I've seen people that then went on stage and could hardly deliver a 5-minute speech. And that's embarrassing. And in the end, they really ruin their own reputation. Yeah. So for me, it's rather start smaller, which is totally fine. Work your way up. And then deliver. But if you go on stage, you need to deliver.
Yeah. Yeah. And what you said here as well before, it reminded me a friend of mine the other day where he said to me that he realized that he was trying to become a keynote, but then he realized that after giving few keynotes that was not his thing, that he really preferred to be with people and be training people. That was more
and
the environment.
Totally
So that's awesome to be able to realize that as well. Okay, so I will pass on to the guys if they want to ask any questions. Any questions here, write down here for me on the chat, so then I can pass on to Sonja. Have any question? Who wants to ask something? You're not that quiet. I know that. No questions? Oh yes, Noberto. What was your first? You can read that.
Yeah. So what was my first speaking job like? So I think that my first paid speaking gig was actually one that I had rather wobbly knees because it was for Google for a global conference. And I had gotten that through an agent, and I knew that I could deliver, but this being such a big, important one, I was a bit nervous, I have to say. But then I walked in, and as I went onto the stage, just those 2-3 seconds, I was just like, okay, I can do this. I need to deliver, I have to deliver, I will deliver. And it's really powerful to just sort of keep repeating to yourself, hey, you just need to nail this. The good thing was that I was talking about something I was 100% comfortable with. Another good topic. If you know what you're talking about, no matter what happens, you know your topic. Even if you've got a total technical failure, you can still stand there and share what you want to talk about. So that confidence of, I know what I'm talking about, I'm good at what I'm talking about, the nervousness, forget about it, and then it was good.
There's a very good question here from Jane. Hi, Jane. She's asking, what do you think will happen with the conference industry with this COVID-19?
I think it's too early to really say what will happen. The one thing that's for sure that there will be, even if it all normalizes again, there will be a lot more virtual formats. There will be clients that will be probably trying out new formats as well. Everyone is kind of still a bit insecure about it, doesn't really know. So we are the ones also that need to guide the clients and take away that uneasiness or that hesitation and just say, you know what, we can always try it out in a smaller group first. You don't need to start with a virtual conference for 500 people. Let's just do something, for example, for your department, and we try it out and see how people perceive it, how well they accept it, and then let's take it step by step. But I think it's this time we all need to be very understanding. We need to work closely together. I was having a discussion just on Friday with an agent from Australia who called me for a booking, and he's like, well, how much? And I'm like, you know what? I know exactly how much I would charge for a physical speech, but in terms of a virtual one, you know what? Let's just discuss openly with the client as well, because that's the sort of thing. Yes, you could just say a number, but the client also has never done this before, and it's all about give and take and just being totally transparent, being open, and doing this together, I think.
Awesome. And here, Jane asks again, do all your gigs come from people contacting you, or do you approach conference organizers and companies?
So far, I've been lucky enough to get enough requests from people who had seen me speak, through LinkedIn, through connections, through recommendations. I have not really tried out the whole let me reach out to conference organizers. Also because a lot of those conference organizers, of those that are publicly announced, they all want speakers for free. That's beautiful when you get a big paycheck from BMW. It's not so beautiful when you run a speaking business, as you said before.
Yes, that's true. Here, I have another question here from Johan Frazen. Do you prefer return clients or new clients? I guess return.
They both. Actually, I can't say which one is I prefer. I love them both. I mean, a new client is always a new challenge. It's a totally new setup. I really enjoy taking up that challenge of helping a new client. Return clients are also beautiful because you already know the setup, you know the company, you possibly know the people. Both are equally beautiful, I would say.
Mm-hmm. I have one more question, and then I want to ask a little bit about your book before we leave. From Elena, how long does it take to prepare one keynote? What are your steps and rituals?
Yeah. So basically, the very first thing I do is I speak very openly with the client and try to find out as much as possible about their objective, and not just the event organizer's objective. Oh yeah, the board member needs to like it and all the audience needs to like it. I really try to find out the real true objective of why are they running this event, what's happening, what challenges are they facing at the moment, what targets do they have, where can I help them best. Then the next question is, who are the audience? Like it's not just gender, nationality, but it's also things like language. It's things like their attitude. Is it more a conservative bank, or is it a hip marketing agency? Totally different mindset. Are we talking to clients that are in a Muslim country, or are we in a country where we have a lot of people that just sort of challenge everything you say? So totally different mindset. So it's all about finding out as much information as possible. And then once you've got that, you go, okay, how can I use what I've got and best sort of put that into a new concept that really helps them so for me, every keynote speech is custom prepared for that respective company, for their respective objective, and for their respective audience. And then I just sit down and say, okay, what material? I mean, obviously it's all kind of about similar topics, but it's really like, okay, which parts really help? What can I do? How can I help this part? How can I best support them here? And it normally takes, that whole process takes several days, but if you put it together, I would say minimum a day, if not more, to really put it together and then do the alignments and try to fully nail it for that client.
Do you do everything on your own, or you have your mentors and coaches, someone who you brainstorm when you're putting all these ideas together?
For these kind of preparations, I do that pretty much on my own, but obviously I do get inspiration by great people, by great other speakers. Joyce, for example, is someone I love to exchange my views with, and I always find it extremely important to exchange views and sort of support each other, but you really need to find the right people.
Okay. Last question here from Roberto. There's one more from Joanne, and that's it, guys, because she has to go. She doesn't have all the time for us here. And from Roberto here is, do you get a repeat business as a speaker alone, or does that have to be accompanied by consulting?
A lot of speakers, or I would probably say the majority of speakers, use speaking to sell their trainings, their consulting, their programs of whatever kind. I don't do that so much because I love speaking, and I'm just not the typical trainer. I do some training courses, but I don't go on stage to then sell. For me, it's really, I just love to speak. I love to inspire from stage. But that's sort of the core business for me.
Yeah, it's also how you branded yourself, right? And market yourself. Oh, yeah. So Johan says, what's the split between current and new clients for you?
I would say a lot more new clients.
Not more new clients. And last question, I promise. Are your clients mostly in Asia? Because I know you're from Munich, you're here close to me now, but you live in Asia, right? In Singapore.
Yeah. So I live in Singapore. For the past year and a half, I had a lot of clients in Asia, but it's sort of the business is growing more and more in Europe, which is beautiful as well, because for me, it's either or is fine. It's obviously for me really nice to do some speeches in Germany as well. I did a beautiful speech last year in the Allianz Arena, the soccer stadium, for me the first time to actually be in the soccer stadium, and that's something that really filled me with pride. But in the end, it doesn't matter where the clients are. if there's a speech with which I can help them, I'm happy to do it.
That's so awesome. That's all from me right now, guys. Last questions. Norberto said he has one more.
Come on.
That's okay. Okay, so now your book, you just launched the book, and which was a marathon. You were crazy. You said, I'm going to launch this book in 1 week. And then can you just explain a little bit about the book, and then we finish?
Yeah. So basically what I noticed during sort of a month ago was that people were starting to be really depressed. There was a lot of negativity on Facebook, a lot of, oh, I'm so bored, and when will this stop? And people just, anything from boredom to total desperation. And I had a lot of friends who were really struggling badly. And mind you, I mean, my businesses are struggling quite badly at the moment as well. So I thought, okay, what can I do to just get people into a different mindset? And I'm like, okay, I could actually write a book about ultra creativity, because this is what I talk about. Why not just write the book? And then I thought, yeah, but then it's, sorry to say, just another inspirational book that won't have that impact during Corona. I'm like, okay, I need to do this differently. And then I thought, you know what? Why don't I self-challenge myself and do something totally crazy? And then I said, I will actually create a bestseller in 1 week. Why did I do it? Because ultra creativity is all about making the impossible possible. And then I thought, I can't just go and say, hey, with ultra creativity, you can make the impossible possible. I need to prove it. So I publicly said, I will produce a bestseller in a week. I sat down on Saturday morning and started typing like crazy. I mean, the good thing is I had the concept in my mind, and it's a topic I talk about, I think about, I had already developed. And one of the chapters is also about use your resources wisely, use your strengths, be aware of your strengths. So focus on the things that you know, focus on the things that you're good at. So within that 1 week, I basically created this book, which is called Ultra Creativity, The Experiment. Saturday, Sunday, I wrote. Then I sent it off to a friend in America to do the proofreading while I got some sleep. Then Monday, Tuesday was all about editing, cover design, creating it all, writing the blurbs, defining the subtitle, getting people to write testimonials, because I needed to already upload on Wednesday, because on Kindle Direct Publishing for Amazon as an ebook, it takes up to 3 days to actually be published, which means I started on Saturday. I needed to launch on Saturday. I had to, on Wednesday night, I had to upload it. So that gave me then some time for on Thursday and Friday to fully promote it and just do as much as possible to turn it into an Amazon bestseller. And mission achieved, mission accomplished. It became #1 bestseller in 4 categories across 3 continents on that Saturday.
You see, guys, here's a book to have. Yeah, all said by the lady. And Sonja, we have to leave because, you know, 1 hour passed. And where can they find you? Where can we find and continue the conversation with Sonja?
I think the easiest one would be go on ultracreativity.com. That is a direct link to my speaker website, which is Sonja Piontek, which is a bit harder to spell. So go on to ultracreativity.com. There you'll find my contact details. Get in touch. Don't be shy. Let's keep in touch. I would love to continue that conversation. And yeah.
That's awesome. I will send the recording. Sorry, say it again.
Good luck on your journeys to becoming great.
Yes, to have our voices out there. Especially moments like this, we need to speak up. Speak up is what I keep saying. It's the attachment to me. Speak up.
Yeah.
And so that's it. And I will send the recording to everybody who got into my last minute call. Thank you so much for the support. Sonja, thank you so much for your time and for sharing your knowledge so generously with us. And guys, you know, she said, let's keep doing it and speak up.
Yeah.
Bye.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.